It is a great pleasure to be here. I would just like to share my slides here. I want to thank Professor Marcos and his team from Chile. It is first time that I've been interacting with people from Chile. It indeed is a pleasure. Uh, we had series of webinars, so I'm quite aware that uh, people might be still getting a little bored, but I can see that a lot of people are there. So let's start from the opportunities, problems, policies of neurorehabilitation in India. And then I give you what is our experience, how we have been thinking of this, even past couple of years and how it has changed in past 3 months. So 3 years and 3 months, how it has been different. So when my outline would be teleneurorehabilitation in India, what are the problems, what are the opportunities, is there any policies, and what are the guidelines we have. If you look at tele-rehabilitation, there is a current technology approach provides a wide range of service such as teleconsultation, telemultimodal care, telehealth care, tele-home-based care, teletechnology-aided rehabilitation, which can be robotics, cognitive rehab, or even the virtual reality. And all these modalities can be considered as subspecialty of tele-rehabilitation and would fall under the umbrella of telemedicine. If you look at India, 1.37 billion young population, and largely many of them are young. And then if you look at opportunities, you have, so I look at SWOT, that is strength, opportunities, weakness, and the threat. And you look at the weakness, we have limited health and infrastructure. If you look at the threat, we have external factor like pandemic, regulatory reform. And if you look at opportunity, the technology hub, you got software, IT companies which are there in ample, health startups. So these are some of the things which takes us to the further. So what are the associated problem with teleneurorehab in India? Less than 5,000 neurologists to serve 1.37 plus billion population.
Wow, this is.
And then 70% of Indian population is in the rural area. And at 80% of medical specialists are in the urban area. So that's a mismatch which we have. High disease burden, especially of non-communicable diseases. And among the non-communicable, there are several neurological disorders which are associated with limited therapeutic option. Stroke is very common, third most common cause of death in India. Lack of specific treatment further contribute to disease burden, mortality, morbidity, etc. And neurorehabilitation services in any developing country like India is a great challenge in view of limited manpower. And there are geographical challenges, length and breadth of the country. And of course, don't forget cultural factor, religion, and the languages. India has got so many religions and the language changes every 100 kilometers as you move across the country. There are non-availability of professional neurologist services in rural part, and that is a real problem. If you look at the peripheral center, regional center, apex center, there are many districts still in India where there are no neurologists. It is luckily we are now producing over 200 neurologists every year, which used to be only 20 or 30 a couple of years before. So government of India has really taken certain steps. Now, key question is, does technology has a role to improve medical care research for underprivileged? How can we effectively manage patient diagnosis, treatment, and home-based medical care from distance location when particularly transport and travel costs exceed treatment costs and tele-rehab may be answer? And I'll come back to you with this on the family-based rehabilitation which we are proposing in our country, India. So burden on family and caregiver is there, immobility, cost of traveling, outpatient rehab, feasibility of visiting a center, poverty, illiteracy, myth, and insurance. Luckily, Government of India in 2018 has launched the Ayushman Bharat, which tends to cover a huge number of population which is below poverty line. So what are the opportunity of tele-neurorehabilitation in India? So you look at this country, very big, and as I already mentioned, 70% in rural, 80% specialists are in urban. So there is a limitless opportunity to create better access to specialty healthcare. And telemedicine can be the building block to solve this puzzle. So if you look at some of the newspaper, which I always say, tele-rehabilitation could be the solution. Why? Because India to require 9 lakh bed for elderly by 2027 against 97,000 now. India to lead mobile users. So there's a 1 billion user of mobile in India. How many doctors we have, you can see that. And India to overtake China by 2024, that's a 1.5 billion population. So these are some of the issues where we will lead in future. And if you look at number of smartphones in India, already 2017, 300 million. Now you could see that in 22, it will be about 900 million. And if you look at online video consumption in India, stated to rise, all traffic internet, 2017 was 58%, while 2022 it will be 77%. And you can see average mobile data consumption per month from 2007 to 2022. That means India is really leading into the mobile and use of internet data. And that's where we can catch on the tele-rehabilitation. So what are the various opportunities? You have stroke, epilepsy, headache, MS, movement disorder, and other, which are the neurological problem. And we have therapists, speech occupational physio, psychologists, nurses, and other therapists, social worker, who has to alight service integration to become a multidisciplinary team. And then you have training opportunity for tele-rehab, poor adaptation, maybe because of lack of knowledge, technical skill, infrastructure ability. You really need to integrate certain apps into the mobile or the web-based, which can be easy to use. So need for structured and certified tele-neuro rehab academy, which would facilitate infrastructure building, designing neuro-specific telemedicine platform, and national-wide enrollment and training on telemedicine for doctors and allied stakeholders. And I'll come back to you that how we are developing this in next couple of months to take the further. Now let's come to the policy of telemedicine in India. Unlike what I have heard from Australia and America, they have been very well advanced, and India still has no policy till March, but there were certain telemedicine which were going on, and I'll come back to that. What does telemedicine mean? We have used to use it in where there's a distance, technology, and health management. That is a delivery of healthcare services where distance is a critical factor, and India being a large country, all healthcare professionals are using information and communication technology for exchange of valid information for diagnosis, treatment, prevention of disease, injury, research, evaluation, and continuing education of healthcare provided, all in an interest of advancing the health of individual and their community. So who can practice telemedicine? This is what Government of India has come out. These are guidelines which are released by Ministry of Health, Family Welfare on 25th March 2020, after the lockdown has already been announced in India on 21st March. So who can provide telemedicine? A registered medical practitioner who is enrolled in the State Medical Register or the IM, Indian Medical Register, under the IM Council Act 1956. He is the one who can do the telemedicine. So what are the enabler of access and afforded access to healthcare services, reduction of financial burden associated with travel while seeking health services, data record keeping will improve for doctor, which otherwise will tend to miss, could be a savior during natural disasters and pandemic, and reduction of inequality of medical care by improving access to distant geographical and remote area. So what are the types of tools which are available? It could be according to mode of communication, video, audio, or text, or it could be according to purpose of consultation like non-emergency, first consultation or follow-up consultation, emergency consultation, and in all cases of emergency, the patient must be advised for an in-person interaction with an RMP earliest. So you give an immediate consultation, but he must go immediately to the doctor as early as possible as in emergency. In case of alternative care is not present, teleconsultation might be the only way to provide timely care in such circumstances, a solution situation. RMP may provide consultation to their best judgment. So telemedicine should be appropriate and sufficient. These are the guidelines which RMP to exercise good judgment, complexity of patient's health condition. Identification of RMPs, teleconsultation should not be anonymous. Confirmation of patient identity with an age group. Begin the consultation by informing the name, qualification to patient. Display of RMP's registration number is a must. Mode of telemedication could be primary, audio, video, as I already mentioned, and patient consent is very important. Care health, if you can also expect caregiver, health worker, or RMP initiate the request like test, written, email, audio, video. And these are the information exchange for the patient evaluation, type of consultation, which could be first or follow-up. Teleconsultation should not be anonymous, as I mentioned to you. Confirmation of patient identity, as I already said. Patient management. Provide health education as appropriate in the case, or provide counseling related to specific clinical condition and or prescribed medicine. There are a lot of catch on the prescribing medication. Prescribing medicine without an appropriate diagnosis, provisional diagnosis, will amount to a professional misconduct. And there are certain scheduled drugs which cannot be prescribed on the telemedicine. So that's very important. And these are the, what are the medicine you can prescribe? There's a list O, which can be like OTC, paracetamol, cough lozenges, etc. can be prescribed. List A is safe drug that can be prescribed through the telemedicine. The prescription has to be on first consultation through video mode, or drug treatment or follow-up treatment can be done. There's a list B, which are safe drug that can be through the telemedicine upon follow-up consultation in those cases where RMP has first consultation in person in the past. And then there is a prohibited list, and these medicines have a potential of abuse. Schedule S drug, narcotic, psychotropic, they cannot be prescribed on telemedicine. So there is a lot of initiation by Government of India. Well before the COVID has come, there is a National Digital Health Authority of India, which is in the process of being set up and has been clearly defined an action item of the National Health Policy in 2017. And Family Welfare has also notified standard to be used for exchange of health information. And there is a second edition which was started in December 2016. So where there are various programs which are already running: teleradiology, teleclinic for nuclear medicine, teleophthalmology, teleclinic for radiology, rheumatology, telepresence of suite for surgical skill sharing, and e-tumor board and decision support system. The DigiGaon, Gaon is a village, so there is an initiation by Government of India to have a digital village, which is aimed to provide telemedicine education and skill using digital technology, and aim to double the income of farmer by 2022. There is a Pradhan Mantri Gram Digital Shiksha Abhiyan, which is under the Prime Minister, which extend to about 600 million rural household to complete the mission of DigiGaon. And this will be the key to success of Digital India. And the Gujarat is the first village which is digitalized. In 2018-19 health budget, the National Health Protection Scheme, which is world largest government funded healthcare program covering over 100 million people vulnerable to family, providing coverage up to the 500,000 rupees per family per year for secondary and tertiary care hospitalization. Unfortunately, it doesn't still cover the neuro rehabilitation, and that really need to be addressed by Government of India sooner or later. There is a telemedicine at temples which has been started. So we have a religious thing, and there is a telemedicine which has been there. There is a hierarchical structure for NRTN, which is National Rural Telemedicine Lab Networking. We start at level 1 at primary health center, connected to district health. And then level 2 is district hospital. Level 3 is state hospital, national super specialty hospital. And level M is mobile telemedicine unit, covering few villages connected to nearest PHC, CHC, or direct to district hospital. And this level M is the one which goes into the most district area with people, smaller villages where even 100 huts are there. And this is what is being connected. So why there is a need for telemedicine academy? So what we are now developing is, we're trying to develop a telemedicine academy along with a platform of 60 organizations across India. which I represent as ICCA as one of the task force member. And after the Ministry of Health, along with Board of Governor, OMCI issued telemedicine guideline, they may convert into act with the time, and we need to prepare in that direction. There is a consistency in guidelines understanding compliance practices need of an hour. We need structured training and hands-on practice which are not there to learn how to handle this new digital elephant in the room. Certification along with the credit points on medical education can be a positive outcome. Still, we have not yet developed that. And there are enough and more telemedicine platforms, and we do not know what is right for us. So we need to really find out that this is the best, whether the Zoom or whether the Microsoft Office or whether even the Google, which one is right, we don't know. So how academy structure would look like. So Telemedicine Academy will have a director and the director of responsible for facilitating training program, which is myself. There are associated director from various specialty, pediatric surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, gynecologist who would part of it so that we can deliver specifically for that. Then there is a scientific committee, and then there's a team of trainer and internal external thing. We are planning to start this in first week of July. And there are 12 hours, 12 session course, which is my initial thought. And we are starting from 12 July. So there will be a last will be the certification. So the decision of what is the way forward is decision, team formation, survey. Telemedicine Academy needed certification course, selection of team at national level. So all over India is covered. Trainers, schools, those who train further, other doctors, and then the survey to assess the training need represented to government for required amendments. So finally, a good telemedicine will look like facility-specific telemedicine platform, which is easy adoption method, easy appointed access for patient, doctor, option of audio, video, text facility, payment gateway, compliant record keeping, and technical platform built in compliance with guidelines. And then well-defined flow of tele-assessment, that is accepted list of tele-examination disease-wise, standardized and accepted method of non-physical assessment of patient from distant location. And I can see that one question, how do we do sensory examination on teleneurology platform or telerehabilitation? And that's really the challenge. How do we do higher mental function examination? What are the various things? How we can do the motor examination? That's much more simpler, both motor and cerebellar, but sensory and higher mental function is real complex, and standardized way of data recording on telemedicine treatment. And finally, effective treatment and monitoring. So online treatment, prescription either handwritten or computer generated, facilitating online diagnostic or medical supply, good data analytic to improve the treatment, and data analytic promoting study and publication. So I thank you very much for this first part of the